From American actors who became governors, the former later elected president, the latter known for the phrase,
"I'll be back,"
to Chima and Chinua, two of Africa's most famous authors who, though not related, by some freaky coincidence, lived in the same house several years apart, and sadly, things did fall apart. To American T. Ribs and German M. Schumacher, Formula One aficionados born on the same day. From America's first black ballerina to Robert Ballard. From Indian author, teacher of yoga, BKS Iyengar, who reminds us that we're not getting any younger. To the drama in Bahama and the rumble in the jungle, a killer and a chiller and the thriller in Manila. To Malala and Lilibeth, the former whose son almost set in the SWAT district from an assassin's bullet, the latter Her Royal Majesty, whose empire the sun, it was said, never set, to the exquisite beauty of our expansive, expanding, and majestic universe. Whatever takes your fancy, there's something for everyone right here, right now. Hello and welcome to my Today in History channel. My name is Sotonye Afiesimama and this is Today in History for the 14th of January. As usual, let's get cracking with events as recorded on this day in history. Now, coming up in today's Today in History, an Alsatian Polymath, a Pulitzer Prize nominated novelist, the first African American to head a Fortune 500 company, the Jasmine Revolution, and lots more. Don't go anywhere. First, we shall start with the Treaty of Madrid. So, the Treaty of Madrid was signed on this day in 1526 by the Habsburg Emperor Charles V. So Charles I of Spain and his prisoner Francis I, King of France, who had been captured during the Battle of Pavia in February 1525 and held prisoner until the conclusion of the treaty, when he was allowed to return to France. So again, this was the day in 1526 that the Treaty of Madrid was signed by Charles V, also known as Charles I of Spain, and his prisoner Francis I, King of France, who was captured during the Battle of Pavia in February 1525. He was held prisoner until the conclusion of the treaty, when he was allowed to return to France. So this picture or this illustration illustrates it very nicely. This is the signing of the Treaty of Madrid on this day in 1526. Moving swiftly on, the year is 1784, and pictured here, the Treaty of Paris. The Continental Congress ratified the Peace of Paris, or the Treaty of Paris, with Great Britain, which recognized the independence of the United States. So this was signed in 1783, but it was ratified on this day in 1784. So this picture is the signing of the American Peace by the shows the American Peace Commissioners left to right: John Jay, John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Henry Lawrence, and William Temple Franklin, B. Franklin's grandson and secretary. Unfinished painting because the British commissioners refused to pose, by Benjamin West. Okay. So that's interesting. So the Treaty of Paris was ratified on this day. It was signed again in 1783, but ratified on this day. Okay, this is an interesting one. Unfinished because the British refused to pose for the painting. Absolutely hilarious. Anyway, let's move swiftly on now to the year 1861, Mehmed VI, the last sultan of the Ottoman Empire, was born. So that's Mehmed VI, born on this day in 1861. He was the last sultan of the Ottoman Empire. 1875, yes, this is the Alsatian Polymath. Now, he's not a dog. Don't go calling him a dog. His name is Albert Schweitzer. He was a theologian, organist, writer, humanitarian, philosopher, and physician. So that might give you a clue as to the meaning of polymath. Maybe not the meaning of Alsatian, but I'm going to show you exactly what these two words mean. So the Alsatian guy, like I said, is not a dog, although that's one of the meanings of Alsatian. An Alsatian, I'll let this explain itself. So yes, I did go to Wikipedia. I went online to find the other meaning. I didn't know it myself. So, you know, if you don't know, if you didn't know the other meaning, then we're in the same boat. We were in the same boat until now, that is. So someone who was born in the Alsace region, which refers to the Alsace region of France. Then Alsatians refers to people, a person from the Alsace region of France or a speaker of the Alsatian language. Alsatian language, again, the language, the dialect of the Alsace region of northeast France. Sorry, that's slightly out of the frame, but you can go check it out on Wikipedia. And then it also refers to German Shepherd, a breed of dog also known as an Alsatian in the United Kingdom. Okay, so, and then finally, Alsatian causing the first track of Morrissey's 1988 debut album, but that's not, well, I guess that's also a meaning. Anyway, so that's the meaning of Alsatian, the meanings of Alsatian. Polymath, I also Googled it up. Well, Googled, I Binged it if you like. So this is Microsoft Bing. And polymath just refers to a person of wide knowledge or learning. So he was a polymath because he was a theologian, he was an organist, he was a writer, he was a humanitarian. I'm not sure if that's classed as wide knowledge, but anyway, he was a polymath nonetheless. He was also a philosopher and a physician. Albert Schweitzer, born on this day in 1875. Next, we have a Pulitzer Prize novelist coming up shortly. Check out my other videos as well on my channel, and do me a favor, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For those of you who don't know how to go about it, just give me a thumbs up there. Share. There are social media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, email, Pinterest, Blogger, Tumblr, LinkedIn. Really appreciate that. And then click that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and you're good to go. Okay, so again, these are some of my other videos. And then this is actually my first video, very first video that I put out on the 30th of May, I believe, 2020. So go check it out as well. It's quite interesting. It's about Biafra, mainly about Biafra, which the agitations again, 50-something years later, the Igbos are agitating for Biafra, and a guy called Bruce Mayrock, who basically self-immolated himself for the sake of for the cause of Biafra. So go check out this video as well. Okay, let's get back on track now with today's Today in History. So this is the Pulitzer Prize nominated novelist John Oliver Killens. He was born on this day in 1916. So that's the guy pictured here, John Oliver Killens, Pulitzer Prize nominated novelist, born on this day in 1916. 1939, 13 years or 23 years later, I beg your pardon, Hattie McDaniel becomes the first African American to win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role as Mammy in Gone with the Wind. So this is Hattie McDaniel, who becomes the first African American to win an Academy Award Best Supporting Actress for her role as Mami in Gone with the Wind. 1948, Carl Weathers was born. He was an actor, best known for his role as Apollo Creed in the Rocky films. Born on this day in 1948, Carl Weathers was best known for his role as Apollo Creed in the Rocky films. Born on this day in 1948. A year later, in 1949, Frank Delano Reigns, the former CEO of Fannie Mae, which made him the first African American to head a Fortune 500 company, was born in Seattle, Washington. So this is an answer to one of the questions that I asked at the outset, or that I talked about at the outset. The first African American to head a Fortune 500 company. So this is the guy. His name again is Franklin Delano Reigns, former CEO of Fannie Mae. And this is a quote by him. It says, "And so we have to be careful with looking at additional stimulus, that we don't provoke an increase in the bond rate and then offset a lot of the stimulus we've already got." Franklin Reigns. So he was born on this day in 1949, the first African American to head a Fortune 500 company. He was born in Seattle, Washington. Next, on this day, 9 years later, the year was 1981, President Lincoln, this was 1972, President Lincoln, President Johnson appoints Thurgood Marshall as the first African American to the Supreme Court of the United States. So President Johnson on this day appoints Thurgood Marshall as the first African American to the Supreme Court of the United States. 1981. So 9 years later, on this day, James Frank, president of Lincoln University. You see why I nearly cocked up the previous one. So this is James Frank, president of Lincoln University in Jefferson City, Missouri, is installed as the first African-American president of the National Collegiate Athletic Association. So again, this is James Frank, president of Lincoln University. He's installed as the first African-American president of the National Collegiate Athletic Association. 2005, on this day, the Huygens entry probe landed on Saturn's largest moon, Titan. It marked the first time a spacecraft landed on a planetary surface in the outer solar system. Last but not least, yes, I did mention this at the outset as well, the Jasmine Revolution. It happened on this day in 2011. It came to its conclusion on this day when the Tunisian president, Zine al-Abidine Ben Ali, stepped down following mass protests against poverty, unemployment, and political repression. The uprising was known as, of course, the Jasmine Revolution. So that's how it all happened on this day. 10 years ago, the Jasmine Revolution took place in Tunisia. It was a protest against poverty, unemployment, and political repression. So that tends to be the story of many, many countries around the world. Political repression, poverty, presidents being forced to step down. At least he was forced to step down, and he did step down. In some of the countries, some presidents refuse to step down and continue their repressive regime, oppressing and intimidating the people who they're supposed to protect. That's a sad thing. The people who have voted you into power, if they don't want you anymore, you just quietly leave, and let someone else take over. But sadly, in a lot of countries around the world, some presidents just refuse to leave power. They just want to be there until they kick the bucket, and some inevitably do. The thing is, life goes on, no matter how long you want to hang on to power, one day you are going to be booted out or you're going to die and someone else is going to take over, Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have come to the end of today's Today in History. Thanks again for dropping by. I appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed yet, why not subscribe so that you receive updates of my video uploads? Also, like this video if you like it, share as well to your social media platforms, your family and friends. It helps the algorithm. It helps push my video to more potential viewers, people who like stuff like this. Thank you so much. I shall see you tomorrow for Today in History. Now, before I go, coming up in tomorrow's Today in History, I'm going to feature a famous American photographer who died virtually unknown. That is so sad. 2 kings in quote now, were born on this day. And an aeroplane crash lands with 0 fatalities. Can you believe that? Can you guess what this was? All will be revealed in tomorrow's Today in History. Stay safe, folks, and I shall see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.